It was a typical Saturday afternoon when Emily decided to surprise her husband, Mark, with a homemade dinner. She had spent the entire morning preparing his favorite dishes and even bought a bottle of his favorite wine. As she approached their home, her heart raced with excitement, but when she stepped inside, the atmosphere felt off. The living room was unusually quiet. Emily called out Mark. "I'm home." No response. Confused, she walked toward their bedroom, the delicious aroma of garlic and rosemary lingering in the air. Pushing the door open, Emily froze. There on their bed lay Mark and a woman she didn't recognize. They were entwined in each other's arms, laughter spilling from their lips. A sudden rush of emotions overwhelmed Emily. Betrayal, sadness, and an unexpected calmness. Instead of storming in and confronting them, Emily stood quietly in the doorway, her mind racing. How could he do this to me? She thought, her heart heavy. She leaned against the door frame, listening intently as they spoke. "Are you sure she'll be out late?" the woman asked, a playful smirk on her face. Mark chuckled. "Oh, she's clueless. She thinks I'm working late at the office. I have the perfect cover." Emily clenched her fists, fighting the urge to burst in and yell. Instead, she took a step back, her mind working on a plan. "I won't let this go unanswered," she vowed silently. With a slow, steady breath, she turned and quietly left the house, her mind already plotting a marvelous revenge. Emily spent the evening in her car, parked a few blocks away, her thoughts racing. The betrayal cut deep, but instead of dwelling on the pain, she focused on her plan. "I need to gather more information," she thought, her resolve hardening. The next day, Emily woke up early, determined to confront the situation strategically. She decided to visit her friend Mia, who always had her back. At Mia's cozy cafe, over steaming cups of coffee, Emily recounted the shocking discovery. "Can you believe it? Mark thinks he can just sneak around like this," Emily exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and determination. Mia raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What's your plan? You're not going to let him get away with it, right?" "No way," Emily replied, a sly smile creeping onto her face. "I'm going to turn the tables on him." Mia leaned in, eager to hear more. "I'm all ears. What do you have in mind?" Emily explained her plan. "I'll act like everything's normal for now. I want to lure him into a false sense of security. Then, I'll expose him in a way he'll never see coming." Mia nodded, impressed. "I love it. Just be careful. You know how men can be when they feel cornered." "I will," Emily assured her. "This will be the sweetest revenge." With her friend's support, Emily felt empowered. She knew she had the strength to face whatever came next. As she drove home, a sense of anticipation filled her. She was ready to execute her plan, and Mark would soon understand the consequences of his betrayal. Over the next few days, Emily maintained her composure, acting as if everything were perfectly fine. She greeted Mark with warmth and affection, masking the storm brewing inside her. She even prepared his favorite breakfast, wearing a smile that belied her true feelings. One evening, while they were sitting on the couch watching a movie, Emily casually asked, "Hey, have you talked to anyone at work lately? I heard they're planning a big company party next week." Mark nodded, his attention glued to the screen. "Yeah, they're talking about it. Should be fun. I'll probably go with a few colleagues." Emily feigned enthusiasm. "That sounds great. Maybe I'll join you." Mark looked surprised. "Really? I thought you didn't like those things." "Oh, I can make an exception. It could be a nice night out," she said, her mind racing with ideas about how to use the party to her advantage. As the days passed, Emily meticulously gathered information about Mark's affair. She learned from Mia that the woman was named Jessica, a new hire at Mark's office. Emily discovered that Jessica was ambitious and always looking for ways to climb the corporate ladder. The day of the party arrived, and Emily dressed carefully, wanting to make a lasting impression. She chose a stunning red dress that hugged her figure perfectly and paired it with elegant heels. She wanted Mark to see what he was missing. When they arrived at the venue, the atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and music. Emily spotted Jessica across the room, flirting with a group of men. A wave of determination washed over her. Tonight is the night, she thought. Mark, I'll be right back. I need to freshen up, she said, leaving him in the crowd. She walked over to Jessica, who was unaware of Emily's presence. With a sly smile, Emily leaned against the wall, watching as Jessica laughed and tossed her hair. Then, gathering her courage, she stepped forward. "Excuse me, Jessica. Can we talk?" Jessica turned, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "Who are you?" "I'm Emily, Mark's wife," Emily said coolly, maintaining her composure. "I thought it was time we had a little chat." Jessica's eyes widened, and she quickly regained her bravado. "Oh, is that so? What do you want?" Emily smiled, a mix of confidence and calm. "I just want to understand what you think you're doing." Jessica crossed her arms, a hint of defiance in her tone. "What's it to you? Mark and I have something special." "Special? You mean the same special he promised me?" Emily replied, raising an eyebrow. "He's very good at making promises, especially when he's pretending to be someone he's not." Jessica opened her mouth to retort but paused, realizing that Emily was unfazed. Instead, she smirked. "You really think you can scare me? I've seen how he looks at me." Emily leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "You might want to reconsider. Mark has a habit of jumping from one relationship to another. The moment you think you're secure, he'll find another distraction. Just like he did with me." The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Jessica's confidence wavered. But she quickly masked her uncertainty with a laugh. "You're just trying to intimidate me. It won't work." Emily straightened, a gleam of mischief in her eyes. "I'm not trying to intimidate you. I just want to give you a friendly warning. But if you think you can keep him away from me, good luck with that." With a final, knowing look, Emily turned to walk away, leaving Jessica stunned. She could feel the thrill of victory coursing through her veins. As she rejoined Mark, she noticed him watching her with a puzzled expression. "Everything okay?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "Of course," Emily replied, her voice smooth. "Just wanted to say hello to a friend." Mark seemed to accept this, and they returned to mingling, but Emily could sense the shift in the air. She had planted the seeds of doubt in Jessica's mind, and now she was ready for the next step in her plan. As the night wore on, Emily's confidence grew. She mingled with guests and made small talk, all while keeping an eye on Mark and Jessica. The atmosphere was electric, filled with laughter and clinking glasses. But beneath it all, Emily felt a rush of anticipation. "Mark, let's grab a drink," Emily suggested, pulling him toward the bar. As they stood waiting for their drinks, she leaned in closer to him. "I've been thinking about planning a little getaway for us. Just the two of us." Mark looked at her, surprised. "Really? That sounds great. I wasn't sure if you'd want to do anything after tonight." "Why wouldn't I?" she replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I want to reconnect. After all, we're in this together." Mark smiled back, unaware of the tension simmering beneath the surface. Emily handed him a drink and raised her glass. "To us," she said, clinking her glass against his. "Cheers," he responded, taking a sip, clearly pleased with her sudden enthusiasm. As the night progressed, Emily seized every opportunity to showcase her charm and charisma. She laughed loudly, shared amusing stories, and danced with friends, all while keeping Mark close. But her eyes often darted toward Jessica, who was now sulking at the edge of the crowd, watching them. Feeling a surge of satisfaction, Emily decided it was time for the final act of her plan. She casually suggested, "Why don't we take a group photo? It'll be fun." Mark eagerly agreed, and soon they were gathered around, everyone posing and laughing. Emily made sure to stand right next to Mark, her arm around his waist as Jessica joined the group, forcing a smile. "Say cheese," Emily called, snapping a photo with her phone just as she noticed Jessica's expression shift from annoyance to embarrassment. After the photo was taken, Emily leaned closer to Jessica, speaking just loud enough for her to hear. "I hope you enjoy your time with Mark. He can be quite the charmer, but just remember, he's not as reliable as you think. Jessica's jaw tightened, but she held her composure. I can handle Mark, don't worry about me. Emily smiled sweetly. Oh, I'm sure you can. Just be careful what you wish for. With that, Emily walked away, leaving Jessica seething. The night was winding down, but Emily knew her plan was taking effect. Mark was oblivious, but Emily felt empowered. The stage was set, and the next move was hers. The following days unfolded with a tense calmness. Emily continued to act as if nothing had changed, but in reality, she was watching everything unfold. Mark, oblivious to her plan, returned to his routine, and Emily kept gathering intel on Jessica and their interactions at work. One afternoon, Emily met Mia for lunch and shared her observations. I think it's working. Jessica seems more on edge lately, Emily said, taking a sip of her iced tea. Mia grinned. That's fantastic. So what's the next step? I want to create a situation where Jessica feels completely exposed. If she realizes Mark is not the man she thinks he is, that will be the final straw, Emily replied, her determination shining through. Mia raised an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? I'll host a dinner party, Emily said. I'll invite Mark, Jessica, and a few other friends. That way, I can play the perfect hostess while keeping an eye on their interactions. I want Jessica to feel the pressure. Mia nodded, impressed. Brilliant. But you have to be careful. Mark might catch on if things get too heated. Don't worry, I'll keep it light and fun. But I want to create moments where the tension is palpable, Emily assured her. With the plan set in motion, Emily spent the next few days preparing for the dinner party. She crafted a menu that would impress, choosing elegant dishes that would wow her guests. As the day approached, she felt a thrill of excitement. The night of the party arrived, and Emily transformed her home into a cozy yet sophisticated setting. Soft music played in the background, and the table was beautifully set. She welcomed Mark and their friends, ensuring to greet Jessica with an overly friendly smile. Hey, Jessica. I'm so glad you could make it, Emily said, her voice dripping with sweetness. Thanks for inviting me, Jessica replied, a hint of wariness in her tone. As the evening progressed, Emily played the perfect hostess, engaging everyone in light-hearted conversation and laughter. But she made sure to subtly guide the discussions toward relationships, watching closely as Mark and Jessica interacted. Isn't it interesting how people fall in love? Emily mused, casting a knowing glance at Jessica. Sometimes the ones we think we can trust the most end up surprising us. Jessica's eyes flickered with unease, but she quickly masked it with a laugh. That's true. Love can be unpredictable. Exactly, Emily replied, her gaze unwavering. You never really know someone until you see their true colors. The atmosphere thickened with tension as Emily continued her subtle game, and she could feel the weight of the moment building. As dinner was served, Emily savored the thought of what was to come, knowing that she was inching closer to the climax of her revenge. As dinner progressed, Emily kept the conversation flowing, all while maintaining a keen eye on Mark and Jessica. She expertly maneuvered topics to draw out their interactions, eager to expose the underlying tension between them. At one point, she leaned across the table, smiling brightly. So, Mark, I heard you had a really important meeting last week. How did it go? Any new projects on the horizon? Mark leaned back, eager to share. Yeah, it went well. We're launching a new initiative, and I think it could be a game changer. Emily seized the moment, directing her attention to Jessica. And how about you, Jessica? I heard you've been doing amazing things at the office. You must be excited. Jessica smiled but faltered slightly under the sudden spotlight. Yeah, things are going well. Just trying to keep up, you know. Of course. It's all about climbing the corporate ladder, Emily said casually, her eyes sparkling with mischief. But sometimes it's the people you trust who can surprise you the most. Isn't that right? The weight of her words hung in the air, and Emily could see the discomfort ripple through Jessica. Definitely, Jessica replied, her voice strained. You really never know who you can trust. Exactly. It's a tough world out there, Emily said, a knowing smile on her face. Especially when some people think they can have it all without consequences. The conversation shifted as the guests enjoyed their meal, but Emily could feel the tension simmering beneath the surface. Mark, unaware of the underlying game, continued chatting, oblivious to Jessica's growing discomfort. After dinner, Emily suggested they move to the living room for dessert. "I made my famous chocolate cake," she announced, leading the way. "You all have to try it." As they settled onto the couches, Emily served the cake, her heart racing with anticipation. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She casually leaned back and glanced at Jessica, who was now fidgeting, clearly feeling the pressure of the situation. "Jessica, how are things between you and Mark? You seem to be getting pretty close," Emily said, a lightness in her tone that belied the seriousness of her question. Mark raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Yeah, I've noticed you two have been spending some time together. Is that right?" Emily watched as Jessica's face paled, caught off guard. Well, we've just been working on a few projects together," she stammered. Emily smiled sweetly, sensing the mounting tension. "Working together, huh? It's always nice to have someone you can trust at the office." Mark's curiosity deepened. "Yeah, I guess you could say that. It's important to have a good team." Emily's heart raced with anticipation as she prepared for the final act of her revenge, knowing that soon everything would come to a head. The dinner party had turned into a battleground, and she was ready to expose the truth.